I ended up in the hospital after a car crash. My wife barely visited. When I finally called her, she told me to stop wasting her. Name's Cole Hunter, 43. And if you told me 3 months ago I'd be dragging a busted leg behind me, living out of a cheap motel, while my loving wife moved on like I never existed, I'd have told you to lay off the Jack Daniels. But here we are. I've been married to Shannon, 41F, for 9 years. She brought her son, Landon, now 17M, into our marriage. I didn't just marry her, I stepped up for both of them. Built that kid a treehouse. Coached his little league team when his real dad forgot. Paid for braces, birthdays, the whole damn deal. We weren't perfect. Hell, nobody is. But we had our life. Jokes only we understood. Dumb fights about takeout. Movie nights where Landon always fell asleep first. At least, I thought we did. Then came the accident. Was driving home from a 12-hour shift, dead on my feet. Just 3 blocks from our house, when some jackass ran a red light and T-boned my truck like he was aiming for me. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in a hospital bed, wired up like a broken robot. Smashed femur, broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, concussion. Doctors said it was a miracle I wasn't zipped into a body bag. Didn't feel like a miracle. First thing I did, once I could focus my eyes, was call Shannon. Don't bring Landon yet, I croaked. It's bad. I don't want him seeing me like this. She promised she'd be there first thing in the morning. Morning came. No Shannon. Day 2. Same. I figured, okay, maybe she's shaken up. Maybe she's dealing with insurance. House stuff. Landon school. By the 3rd day, my gut started twisting. The nurses were giving me that look. The one that says, we feel sorry for you, but can't say it out loud. I called her again. She picked up, sounded distracted. Reality TV blaring in the background. Hey, I said, throat raw. Hey, babe, can't talk long, she said. Busy day. /N//N, you coming by? /N//, and she sighed like I was a toddler whining for candy. I'll try tomorrow. Gotta deal with the car, groceries, Landon's project, you know how it is. Tomorrow. And tomorrow. And tomorrow. But no Shannon. No Landon. No anyone. Week 2 rolled around, and it started sinking in. They weren't coming. Not because they couldn't. Because they didn't want to. The few times I got Shannon on the phone, it was all the same BS. Too busy. Gas is too expensive. 40 minutes is a long drive. Landon's got things going on. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in a bed, hooked to machines, pissing in a bag, and praying my leg won't get infected. Finally, one night, I couldn't take it anymore. Called her. She actually answered. When are you going to come see me? I asked, voice shaking. Long pause. Honestly, Cole, she said, chewing something into the phone. You're not worth the gas money anymore. Either die fast or get better. But stop wasting everybody's time in between. I felt the words slice through me sharper than any wrecked metal. Before I could even respond, Landon grabbed the phone. We don't miss you, he said, voice cracking. Mom's friend Derek helps out way more anyway. Derek, the friendly neighbor. The one who happened to mow our lawn when I was working late. The one who helped Shannon paint the guest room. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just hung up. Laid there in the dark, the steady beeping of my heart monitor mocking me. That was day 35. By day 40, I wasn't planning my recovery anymore. I was planning my escape. And if Shannon thought she could walk away clean after all this, she had no idea what storm was coming. I checked myself out of that damn hospital on day 46. Still barely able to walk. Leg braced up. Pain meds rattling in my pocket like tic-tacs. They warned me not to leave yet. Said the infection risk was high. That my shoulder hadn't set right. That the concussion could still throw curveballs. I didn't care. I wasn't staying in that bed another second, waiting for a family that wasn't coming. My sister Holly picked me up. Bless her. She didn't say, "Are you sure?" Didn't give me sad eyes. Just helped me into her battered Subaru and drove straight to a cheap extended stay motel on the edge of town. Not home. Never home again. First thing I did that night, after getting Curtis, my dog, my real family settled, was open my laptop and start digging. Our joint bank account? Yeah, Shannon had been busy. $7,800 drained in the last month. Cash withdrawals. Weird Amazon orders. Some hotel charges that sure as hell weren't near our house. A payment to a jewelry store. Shannon hated jewelry. Always said it was a waste of money. Guess it's not a waste when it's for your side piece. Next move? Lock it all down. I opened a new bank account. Switched my direct deposit. Called the credit card companies. Froze our joint cards. Then I started pulling paperwork. Title to the truck, pre-marriage. Deed to the cabin I inherited from my granddad. 401k documents. Every single thing that legally belonged to me was getting pulled out of her reach. Day 3 at the motel, I called a lawyer, Jared King. Small office, brutal reputation. He picked up on the second ring. You want out clean? He asked after I laid it all out. I want out right, I said. And I want her to feel it. Jared chuckled. My kind of client. We started filing. Meanwhile, Holly did recon. She drove by my old house. Saw Derek's truck parked in the driveway. Right there. Middle of the damn day. She even snapped a photo. Sent it to me with a single caption. Your wife's loyalty. It didn't even hurt anymore. Not really. It just made things clearer. By the end of week 2, everything was ready. New bank account. Check. Private P.O. box. Check. New apartment. Tiny 1-bedroom on the 2nd floor of a crummy building, but it was mine. Signed the lease cash up front. Next came the move. Operation cut and run. I hired movers, paid them under my new account, and showed up at the house when I knew Shannon would be gone, thanks to Holly's little stakeouts. I only took what was legally mine. My tools. My truck. My old recliner. Curtis's dog bed and toys. Left everything else. Left her with the stuff she loved more than she loved me. The house. The kid who learned betrayal better than gratitude. The fake life. When the last box was loaded, I stood in the empty living room for a long minute. Breathed it in. No rage. No regret. Just clarity. It was never my home. It was a cage. And I'd finally found the damn key. Later that night, Holly sent me a video clip from her dashcam. Shannon standing on the front lawn, screaming into the sky like some B-list soap actress. He took everything. Even the dog. Curtis, sitting calmly in the passenger seat next to Holly, let out a single happy bark at the screen. Smartest one of us all. The next morning, my lawyer filed the divorce papers. No warning. No final conversation. No goodbye note. Shannon could keep her gas money. I was done. Next up, making damn sure she couldn't sink her claws into anything else I had left. The funny thing about freedom is that it doesn't come with a parade or a fanfare. It creeps in like a slow sunrise, quietly spreading across the sky until one day you look around and realize you're no longer suffocating. You're breathing, really breathing, and it's terrifying and beautiful all at once, because you spent so long convincing yourself that choking was normal that the silence of peace feels almost unbearable at first. 3 days after filing the divorce papers, I woke up in my cramped, half-furnished apartment with Curtis's nose jammed under my arm, whining for his morning walk, and for the first time in what felt like years, I smiled without forcing it, without faking it for anyone else's benefit, just a small, tired smile, because no matter what was broken inside me, I still had this stupid, loyal dog who didn't care about my bank account or my crutches or my fractured life. He just wanted me. I hobbled down the stairs, still not used to how much energy basic things cost me now, my shoulder throbbing with every step, the cold Montana air biting into my bones. But I didn't care, not really, because every shaky step away from that hospital bed and that hollow house was a step toward something real, something that might eventually be mine again. When we got back, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway because I was still learning not to flinch at every unknown. Cole Hunter, the voice on the other end asked, clipped and professional. Yeah, this is Deputy Carson with the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office. Your wife, your estranged wife, filed a report claiming you stole shared property during your move. I laughed, an ugly, rusty sound I didn't even recognize as mine. I took what was legally mine, Deputy, I said, and I have a lawyer who'd be real happy to send you the list, with receipts. Pause. She also reported that you abducted the family pet. I laughed harder. Curtis is chipped. Check the paperwork. He's registered under my name. Always has been. The deputy cleared his throat awkwardly. That's what I figured. Just needed to follow up. Have a good day, Mr. Hunter. You too, deputy. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Shannon was scrambling, trying to spin the narrative like she was the wounded party. But the truth had weight, and for once it was on my side. That afternoon, Jared, my lawyer, emailed me the official confirmation. Divorce papers served. Shannon officially notified. Her response? An email titled, "We need to talk." I didn't open it. Didn't need to. I already knew what it would say. Excuses, accusations, manipulations dressed up like concern. She wasn't sorry she'd abandoned me in a hospital bed. She was sorry she lost her free ride. Day 4 after serving the papers, Holly texted me a photo. Shannon's front yard littered with broken furniture. Derek standing there with a sheepish look as he tried to haul a cracked dresser into the back of a rusted-out pickup. "Looks like your replacement's moving in," she wrote. I just replied, "Good luck to him." Because if Derek thought he was getting some fairy tale life with Shannon, he deserved every second of the hurricane he'd just invited through his front door. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet, worked with Jared to make everything official, made lists, what needed to be closed, canceled, transferred, opened my own insurance policy, changed my emergency contact to Holly. Slowly, methodically, I erased every legal and financial tether that tied me to Shannon. I thought the silence would last longer, that she'd simmer for a few weeks before trying another move. I underestimated her. Day 8, middle of the night. Curtis went nuts barking at the door. I dragged myself out of bed, crutches clicking across the floor, heart pounding. When I pulled aside the curtain, I saw her, Shannon, standing in the parking lot under the buzzing motel lights, swaying slightly, arms crossed, staring up at my window like a ghost. I didn't open the door, didn't yell, didn't text. I called the cops. Let them handle it. Let her explain why she thought it was okay to show up uninvited at midnight, reeking of cheap vodka and desperation. 20 minutes later, she was gone, driven away in the back of a cruiser, not arrested, just warned. But the message was clear. I wasn't playing her games anymore. 2 days later, Jared filed for a restraining order. Clean, legal, permanent. As the paperwork ground forward, I kept living, kept showing up to physical therapy, even when it hurt like hell, kept unpacking my apartment, one slow box at a time, kept walking Curtis twice a day, even when the wind cut through me like a knife. Every ordinary, painful, boring thing was a rebellion against the life Shannon tried to trap me in. Every small win was mine. One evening, I sat on the tiny balcony with Curtis curled at my feet, a blanket wrapped around my shoulders, and watched the sun sink behind the motel roofline, and I realized it was over. Not just the marriage, not just the fight, the hold she had on me. Broken. Gone. The next morning, Holly dropped off a small box she'd found while clearing out the last of my stuff from the old place. Inside, my wedding band, a crumpled anniversary card, and a note from Landon, back when he was 8, scrawled in messy crayon, "You're the best dad ever." I held that note for a long time, let myself feel it, all of it, the grief, the rage, the loss. Then I folded it up, tucked it into the back of a drawer, and locked it away. Not because it didn't matter, but because it was part of a life that wasn't mine anymore. The court date for the divorce is set for next month. I'll walk in, head high, and end it for good. No drama, no screaming matches, no revenge posts online. Just quiet, brutal closure. And when it's done, I'll be free. Finally, completely, fully free. Free to rebuild. Free to breathe. Free to be whoever the hell I want to be. Because some things aren't about winning. They're about surviving. And surviving, I've learned, is the best revenge there is. The day of the court hearing arrived cloaked in a gray, miserable drizzle that soaked into everything like a bad memory you couldn't quite scrub away. And as Holly drove me to the courthouse in her ancient, rattling Subaru, I sat there in the passenger seat, staring out the window, watching the rain distort the world into wobbly, trembling shapes, thinking about all the versions of my life I'd once imagined, all the futures I'd built in my head that would never happen now, and feeling strangely okay with it, like closing a book you loved once but had long outgrown. When we pulled into the crack parking lot behind the courthouse, Holly reached across the console and squeezed my hand once, hard and quick, before letting go without a word, because that's how we are, the kind of family that speaks in actions, not speeches, and I nodded at her before stepping out into the rain, my good leg steady, my busted one dragging just slightly but still bearing weight, a small miracle in and of itself. Inside the courthouse, the air was thick with the smell of wet paper and institutional floor cleaner, and I made my way to the second-floor courtroom, where Jared was already waiting, leaning against the wall in his rumpled blazer like he had all the time in the world, and when he saw me, he just gave a nod, like a fighter acknowledging another fighter before the bell rings. We sat together on the cold wooden bench outside the room, watching other cases shuffle past us, DUIs, custody battles, petty thefts, the endless parade of broken promises and shattered illusions that made up the real machinery of life. And then the bailiff finally called our names, and we stood up and walked in, me leaning on my cane, Jared with his battered leather briefcase, ready to end this. Shannon was already there, sitting stiffly on the other side of a room with her lawyer, some sharp-chinned woman in a too-bright suit who looked like she got paid by the tear. And when our eyes met for the first time in months, it hit me how different she looked, thinner, harsher, like life had been gnawing at her too. Only she'd been too proud to admit it. The judge, a tired-looking man with deep grooves in his forehead, got straight to business. No drama, no drawn-out speeches, just the facts. Property split as outlined in the filings, debts divided cleanly, no spousal support awarded either way because, as Jared had so beautifully argued in the paperwork, any financial imbalance was the result of Shannon's choices, not mine. It was over in 15 minutes. 15 minutes to dissolve 9 years of shared holidays, whispered fights under blankets, Sunday mornings tangled up with coffee breath and dog hair, and quiet plans for someday. As we stood up to leave, Shannon moved first, cutting across the aisle like she wanted to say something, like maybe she thought this was still a negotiation and not an execution. But Jared stepped neatly into her path, blocking her with a polite but immovable, "My client has nothing further to discuss." And just like that, I walked out of that courtroom lighter than I had ever felt. The final strings cut, the final debts paid, the final wounds bared to the air to scab over properly. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the clouds were shredding apart in the wind, leaving slashes of blue sky behind them, like hope finally winning a long, ugly fight. And Holly pulled the car up with a grin that was all teeth and pride and fierce relief. We didn't go out for a celebratory drink or a victory dinner. We went home, to my little apartment with its uneven floors and its cheap furniture and its growing pile of laundry, and Curtis waiting at the door with a wagging tail and a squeaky toy. And we ordered greasy burgers and too many fries and sat on the floor eating with our hands and laughing at the stupidest jokes, because sometimes survival doesn't look like a battle cry. Sometimes it looks like bad takeout and bad TV and people who stayed when everyone else left. Later that night, after Holly went home and the apartment was quiet again except for Curtis snoring at the foot of the bed, I sat on the balcony with a beer in my hand, staring out at the dark city. And for the first time, in what felt like forever, I wasn't waiting for the next shoe to drop, wasn't bracing for the next betrayal, wasn't drowning in what-ifs and why-nots. I was just there, alive, free, not healed yet, not by a long shot, but healing, which is a different kind of victory, the slow, stubborn kind that matters more than any dramatic revenge or social media post ever could. And when I finally dragged myself to bed, sore and exhausted and oddly peaceful, Curtis curled up against my side with a heavy, contented sigh, and I realized something simple and yet deep. I didn't lose. I survived. And sometimes, that's the same damn thing. The days after the divorce moved like thick syrup, slow and sticky and strange, because for the first time in years there were no alarms to answer, no fires to put out, no disasters to anticipate, just long stretches of open hours where I was allowed to exist without permission, and it took me longer than I'd like to admit to realize that freedom doesn't come with a roadmap or an instruction manual. Just a blank page and a pen that feels too heavy in your hand when you haven't written your own story in so damn long. I spent the first few mornings just sitting by the window with a cup of coffee that was too bitter and too hot. Curtis sprawled at my feet, watching the world move outside without me, feeling like a ghost haunting a life I hadn't fully stepped into yet. And part of me wanted to scream or smash something or demand to know why survival felt so much like sadness. But another, quieter part just said, give it time. Let the silence teach you what the noise always covered up. By the second week, I started making small moves, baby steps towards something that resembled a real life. I bought a second-hand bookshelf from a yard sale down the street and spent an entire afternoon sanding it down and staining it, getting high on wood polish fumes, and the strange satisfaction of doing something with my own two hands, something that wasn't for her, or for Landon, or for some fake vision of family I tried so hard to believe in. Curtis adjusted faster than I did, settling into the new place like he'd been waiting for it all along, curling up in the sunny patch by the sliding glass door every afternoon, tail thumping against the floor whenever I limped by with a grunt and a cup of reheated coffee. His quiet, unconditional presence reminding me every day that not all loyalty is a lie, and some promises don't get broken the second they become inconvenient. About a month after the final court date, I got a text from an unknown number, short and clipped and familiar in a way that made my stomach clench. Hope you're happy. Gage misses you. No signature, but I didn't need one. I stared at that message for a long time, thumb hovering over the keyboard, heart twisting with guilt and anger and something uglier that I didn't want to name, because the truth was I missed Gage too. Missed the kid who used to run to me after school with paint-streaked projects and stupid jokes. Missed the lazy Sunday afternoons spent teaching him how to grill burgers just right. Missed the sense that maybe, just maybe, I had built something that would last. But the kid who told me, "We don't miss you," coached or not, wasn't the same one who used to call me Dad without thinking, and I couldn't unhear it, couldn't unknow it, couldn't pretend that love given under manipulation was the same as love freely chosen. I didn't answer the text. Maybe someday, if Gage came on his own, no middlemen, no guilt trips, maybe then I'd open that door again, but not now. Not like this. Not when the wound was still raw and the house of cards had only just finished collapsing around my ears. Instead, I turned off the phone, took Curtis for a walk through the muddy trails behind the apartment complex, let the dog drag me through puddles and thorns and the kind of wild spaces that don't give a damn about broken hearts or custody battles or who misses who. Spring crept into Montana slow and reluctant, the air still sharp enough to cut, but the snow melting away in stubborn patches, and with it came a quiet kind of growth inside me. The realization that survival wasn't just about getting through the worst days. It was about learning to trust the good ones when they finally showed up. One Saturday morning, Holly dragged me to a local farmer's market under the thin excuse that I needed fresh air and non-hospital food. And while she bartered aggressively over tomatoes, I found myself wandering past stalls of homemade candles, dusty books, and lopsided pottery until I stumbled onto a booth run by a woman with a crooked smile and wild curls tucked under a baseball cap, selling leather wallets and belts that looked rugged enough to survive a war. Her name was Casey, and she didn't ask me why I was limping or why I looked like I'd been dragged behind a truck emotionally. Just handed me a cup of black coffee from her thermos and started telling me about the best fishing spots within an hour's drive. We talked for an hour without once mentioning exes, lawsuits, or broken dreams, and when I finally left with a new belt and a phone number scribbled on the back of a napkin, I realized something bone deep and undeniable. Life wasn't just about surviving the crash. It was about daring to get back in the damn car. That night, sitting on my battered couch with Curtis snoring at my side and Casey's napkin sitting on the coffee table like a promise I wasn't sure I deserved yet, I let myself feel it. Not the anger, not the bitterness, but the possibility that maybe, just maybe, there were good things left in the world that hadn't already been corrupted by betrayal. And yeah, maybe I'd still flinch when my phone buzzed unexpectedly. Maybe I'd still dream about hospital ceilings and empty chairs and the sound of a voice I loved telling me I wasn't worth the gas money. But for the first time in a long time, The future didn't feel like a sentence. It felt like a chance. A chance to build something stronger. A chance to find peace in places that didn't require me to bleed for approval. A chance to write a new story, one messy page at a time, with no editors hovering over my shoulder demanding I fit into their broken narrative. And as I finally drifted off to sleep that night, the window opened to the cool spring air. Curtis sprawled across my legs like a warm, heavy anchor. I thought maybe, just maybe, surviving wasn't just the end of my story. Maybe it was only the beginning.